Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be continuing our discussion about Dead Like Me. We are going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 12. This episode is called Nighthawks. The episode is titled after the famous painting, and it's actually one of my favorite paintings for a couple different reasons. One of them is because painting itself is this look at these strangers and this idea of looking into a slice of life, and also just kind of trying to picture what it is they're thinking about, what it is that they're doing there. And all those different little pieces are really fascinating to me, and they make my brain work. I love the art style and everything about it. So this is a really fun episode, and it's definitely in my top 5. This episode is a clip show, which normally clip shows feel like a filler episode. Normally they're about the characters kind of reminiscing about things that have happened over the season, and they're usually pretty clunky. This episode, to me, is very cleverly disguised because the whole premise around this episode is that the Reapers are doing a self-evaluation. The best moments that comes out of this episode is when Daisy is explaining that she's already done one of these self-evaluations before she left New York. She doesn't need to do another one. And Rube explains the difference between hot dogs in New York and Chicago. And he's explaining that death is just a little bit different in every single place, and it's different where they're at too. And if she wants to keep doing what she's doing, then she's got to take this test. And if she thinks that she doesn't need to do it, then she can go home. And Daisy has this moment where she just takes the paper and commits to wanting to do it. And it speaks a lot because it didn't really seem like she was very invested in this group up until recently. And I think she's really starting to find her place, and I think she's really starting to feel like she belongs. So it was a really important moment for Daisy, because it digs deep into her character. So throughout the episode, the different self-evaluation questions are trying to get the Reapers to answer really honestly, and so they start looking back at some of the things that they've done. And Daisy's question is, what would make the living believe that you're among them? And for Roxy, it's, what skills do you have that help you be a Reaper? And there's a point where Rube and George are talking about the things that frustrate them about each other, and it shows all those different clips. So overall, I think it's a really cleverly disguised clip show episode, and it distracts you from the fact that you're watching a clip show episode. Georgia doesn't need to take one of the self-evaluations because it's not her time yet. And in the beginning of the episode, we find out that she's having a hard time sleeping, that she's not resting at all, and it's because she's so close to death. She's experiencing it too much, and it's really starting to affect her. And this is the first time we've seen George open up about the struggles of being a Grim Reaper. So she goes to their Waffle House to kind of decompress. That's where she finds everybody doing what they're doing, and she wants to know why she's not doing it either. And this is where one of my favorite quotes comes in, and Rube says to her, because you're doing what you're doing, when it's time for you to do something else, you'll be doing it. And I really love that quote, and I think about it a lot just whenever I'm kind of feeling sad, or whenever I'm feeling like, why am I not in a place that I want to be at? And I always just think about that quote, because I'm doing what I'm doing right now, and if I'm supposed to be doing something else, then I'll be doing that something else. So I really like that quote, and I really like the context of it, and I think it works really well for Georgia and Rube's relationship, that Rube just kind of goes with the flow. He lets things happen, and Georgia really needs to plan, and she needs to think about what's gonna happen and what type of experiences she's gonna get herself into if she continues down this path. So Rube, in a way, is kind of trying to just let her know that she can let go of the steering wheel just a little bit and lighten up. And I think that is something that Georgia is not going to totally grasp for a while. Throughout this episode, Tiffany goes and helps the Reapers. I love anytime we can get Tiffany in the episodes. I think the actress is so dynamic. I think she brings this super fun playfulness to the cast that's really missing, and it's a different type of playfulness that she brings. And I just really enjoy her as a character as well. And she's helping all of them, and there's this wonderful moment where she's going up to Roxy and she's asking if Roxy needs help. And Roxy's smiling at her and is just like, I'm good, I'm good. And then that smile slowly turns into disdain, and she turns to Mason with just all this anger and rage that he's been cheating. And it's this really funny moment because we just see this crack in a subtle way. And I think one of the most intriguing parts of this episode is not what the Reapers are doing, but it's these side characters. This woman shows up at Dare Waffle House and she's got a Coco Peru wig and some fire engine red salsa dress, and she meets up with this guy and they don't exchange any words, and they look at characters that are in the Nighthawks painting, and it just shows them throughout the episode interacting with each other and having these moments, and you kind of start to picture about what's going on. Are they a couple that can only meet at night because maybe there's this love that they have to hide from the rest of the world, or maybe they're seeing other people, or maybe they've just broken up, or maybe they're trying to get back together. We don't know anything about them, but something is so intriguing about them and what's going on in their lives and what's brought them to their Waffle House and what makes them look so sad. And I think they're one of the more interesting parts of this episode just because we don't know anything about them, but the camera focuses on them. The directors want us to pay attention to them. And whether that's to draw parallel lines to the Nighthawks painting, or if there's something we're supposed to glean from them, I think it might be a mixture of both. On that topic of sadness, there's a portion in this episode where George is talking to Rube about how she thinks that Daisy has this level of complexity to her of contemplation, and that when Daisy doesn't think anybody's looking at her, she just is sad about something. This is the first glimmer that we get that something is going on in the background of Daisy's life. We're not gonna quite get there yet, but we're getting close, and that's an important moment as well. And so with the last question that the Reapers all get asked, the question is, why are you here? And it stumps all of them. They have a hard time answering it. They've had a hard time answering all the questions, but this one stumps them the most because why are they there? What is it that made them become Reapers? What was in the cards for them that they were Grim Reapers? Why are they continuing on this journey? And that question can maybe asked for this couple, this mystery couple in the background of these shots. Why are you here? And something that is so really, I think, beautiful about the Nighthawks painting is that you see these characters who are just so wrapped up in their own thoughts. Why are they there? What is going on that brought them to this place? And that is what's happening with our cast, and that's what we're seeing in this episode. So even though it's a clip show, and even though it's a cleverly disguised way of recapping everything that's happened so far in the season, there's something really beautiful behind all of it. And so this whole plot culminates with Rube and George and their quarrels with each other, and Rube has a reap at Georgia's old house, and it ends up being the milkman. Georgia has this existential crisis where she just wants to make sure that her family's okay and that they're safe, and she's really worried that something bad is going to happen to them, but nothing does. And it again goes to that thing that Rube said to her earlier, that she's doing what she's doing, and if she was supposed to be doing something else, then she'd be doing it. And that's the same that can be said for the last family, is that they're doing what they're doing if they were supposed to have a post-it. Something bad was supposed to happen, then it would happen. There's literally nothing that Georgia can do. It's not her family, it's not her life, it's not her house, it's not her driveway. There's nothing she can do about any of it. And all she can just do is just exist and do what she's doing. Wow, I just really love this episode. I didn't realize how much I loved it until I started talking about it. But I do truly, really love this episode. So one of my favorite quotes from this episode, that I already quoted one from earlier, but my favorite one from this one is when Rube and Daisy are talking, and they're talking about hot dogs, and Daisy explains that she doesn't eat hot dogs. And then Rube starts explaining the differences between these two hot dogs, and Daisy has this wonderful moment where she says, I wouldn't eat either of those. Daisy has some really great quotes just because of how much of a bee she is sometimes. and just the way that she firmly just digs her heels into the ground about certain things. I think she's so funny. That's my favorite quote from this episode, along with what Rube said about doing what you're doing. So I love those two, and I love this episode in general. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.